So, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. It's really lovely. Um, I just thought I'd do this as a shorter session today, just to help with many of us at this time of the year. It's really draining, isn't it? The change of weather, change of moods, it can all impact us. So, I just thought let's do a little bit of a mindful Monday moment, see what we can do to help ourselves. It's not just essential oil related, but definitely has got the frankincense and essential oils near the end. But first of all, if you do have frankincense and you've got one that you can safely take internally or anything like that, or if you've just got frankincense in general, please grab it if you've got it, so that you can smell it while you're looking at it. Okay, so I just thought it'd be really important to introduce myself. So I'm Em. Those of you who are here, most of you know me, and you know some of my life struggles that I've gone through. But my experience with mental health has been going on for a long time now. So with family members, um, some that are in my extended family and in my immediate family have been struggling with mental health, and I have struggled myself as well. So with postnatal depression and things like that, I have really struggled with that. And then bereavement and things like that can affect as well. So I've found a few things really, really helpful. And then I've also been working alongside essential oils as well. And these are proving to be extremely useful because these work really well with emotions. So I will explain a little bit more later, and hopefully you find something comforting, if not just knowing that you're not on your own. So I found this fascinating, this quote from this doctor that you may be familiar with online. Children who have asthma live with parents who are stressed. Now that's really resonated with me. Um, it's something that I'm going to do more research on. I found it quite fascinating. But the main takeaway that I took from it actually was the association that our emotions have with our physical and mental well-being. So it's just really interesting that if we do our own research on this and have a little look, we may find connections that could be useful for us in healing and recovering in the future. So, some signs to look for if we're feeling low ourselves, or perhaps we have got family members or friends who are perhaps really, really struggling themselves at the moment. These are really important to look for. And when I wrote these down, when I was doing my research, I noticed it's really important for us to do a self-examination as well. So, without wanting to make anyone feel uncomfortable, just have a little look at these. I'm not going to delve into the details with them at this moment because I do want to keep this as practical and comfortable as possible. But if we do notice things, changes in behavior, in perhaps mood swings, if we notice somebody's just losing interest in things, perhaps it's just changing their personalities, and perhaps they're just isolating themselves an awful lot more. Perhaps we're doing these things to ourselves. Are these things that may mean that we may need some extra help? So we know all these things. These are like the practical things. Perhaps we've gone on a website and we've gone, okay, I need to do these things to support myself, my health, or maybe we've read articles that say we can help other people, we can help our friends, we can help our family members. Here, we know these can support us, but how do we actually practically do them? So, trying to relax, easier said than done, isn't it? Reducing stress is something that the neurologist and doctors have told my husband to do. Very easy to say when you're in a white coat in a hospital, not so easy perhaps to do practically when life throws you different lemons. So, again, it's how can we find the space to try and reduce those stressors? And are there things in our home or in our life that perhaps we can put boundaries up or find ways to support ourselves in that? Finding ways to create and to learn. This is something I've found brilliant for myself and my brain. And with mental health, it's something that's been so important for our children and for our family that I thought I'd definitely share. So things like learning a new language, a new craft, a new sport, perhaps a new skill, like photography, for example, might be one, or perhaps painting is another, or making something with your hands with clay might be another thing. Creative for me, I love digital design. I like playing with things. making things look pretty. So I enjoy doing that. Spending time in nature, it's a huge one. So one fascinating study in Japan has been on Shinrin-yoku, which is called forest bathing. And this is when you go out into a forest and you smell these beautiful smells of trees and you just get this sense of freedom and this de-stressing sort of feeling. And it is actually prescribed in Japan, which I find fascinating for mental health. If people are stuck in a city and they're in an office all day, or perhaps they're indoors all day in their apartment, again, it's about sending these ones out and getting out into nature. Now, the fascinating link with essential oils now is the smells that you smell in a forest as you walk through a forest. That's the essential oils coming out from the tree. So it could be coming from the leaves, it could be coming from the bark, it could be coming from flowers. And again, it's how important these smells are. We could go through life without them, couldn't we? But how boring would that be? Connecting with others, a huge thing. So for me, years ago, I found myself just keeping to my little circle because I found it very difficult to step out of my circle. Um, it wasn't my comfort zone. But then I learned actually, if we can allow ourselves to connect with others, we may enrich our lives and it won't feel so insular, perhaps. So, finding people who are your kind of people is beautiful. If you have a faith, go and make new friends in that circle, people who make you feel comfortable. I think it's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Looking after our physical health. So, I've had my ups and downs, and I'm still a work in progress. But one thing I have noticed is when I work on my physical health, my mental health is better for it. So a few years ago, I went to a nutritionist and helped myself that way, and I felt the best. So now I'm implementing that again after some stresses came my way to get back to that way of life, which was it's really been helpful. And improving sleep. So I don't know about you, I'm an extreme grump when I don't have enough sleep. And this really impacts on mental health. So if we're feeling those anxious thoughts and stresses and we're struggling to get to sleep, that's something that we can improve and support if we need to focus on that. But if we're thinking, oh, well, we know all these, perhaps just let's have a little look. And I've gathered a few ideas together. So ways to de-stress could be breathing exercises. It's like stopping your brain and stopping your body from that panic moment. So I find box breathing really useful. So it's breathing in, imagining a box and breathing in for 4 seconds, holding it for 4 seconds, breathing out for 4 seconds, and holding that for 4 seconds, and starting again. Some people find holding it for too long is not helpful. So again, we can jazz that up. Perhaps we might want to try 4 seconds inhaling, holding it for two, and then breathing out again. And that's really useful for me as I do have respiratory issues. So again, I do the shorter ones if I'm struggling that day. Sometimes lying down and feeling my stomach as I breathe, going out and then holding it and then going back in. It's making sure we're getting those deep breaths because when we're stressy and we're struggling, we seem to have more shallow breath. And it's really important that we focus on the breathing because this ultimately supports the blood circulating around our body. It takes pressure off our heart and it does amazing things for inside our body. So giving ourselves moments like these is really helpful. I diffuse essential oils around my home, and that also encourages my breathing and it actually supports um, the insides of my body. So when I'm inhaling it, it's going up through the olfactory system and it's sending messages to my brain, to the neurotransmitters in my brain, and it's changing the chemical balancing or whatever's happening in my brain. And then it sends messages out to the rest of the cells in the body. So again, it's about what are we doing proactively to support ourselves in these ways? And it can be a numerous amount of ways. And perhaps we can't manage smells. And that's completely understandable. So what else can we do? And I'll show you a few tips on that later as well. And it's also just taking a breather, isn't it? So literally sitting down still. I find this very difficult, but sitting still, having a moment, booking in that time with ourselves. And that's really good as well. Being vocal with family and saying, I need to switch off time for a little bit. Whatever you need, these moments can really help. Again, I've got a few little lists. As you can see, there's gardening in there. Getting out in nature doesn't have to be, if you can't walk, go for a walk. It can be outside in the garden. This morning, I actually went outside. It's freezing outside. It feels like it's going to snow any minute. But I went outside because I needed to do the bins and I needed to clean the bin and all of that fun. But I actually went outside and I thought, I can do a little clear up while I'm here because it was bright, it
Mhm.
smelt fresh, and it was lovely. It was just so, so nice. And so it's a simple little things. Okay, I was cleaning the bin, not exactly fun or pretty, but it was a thing that I just decided, find the positive in it. It smelled fresh, it smelled nice outside, and I was able to just, tidy up a little bit. It didn't take me long. I was probably outside 10 minutes maximum, and I felt quite good afterwards. So it's little things like that that can help. Journaling is something that I've restarted. So gratitude journaling is something I'm literally writing down in three little spaces what I appreciate from the today. Now, I'm not able to do it every day, but I'm building up my progress so that I can get to that point. But I'm making sure that I'm writing down what I really appreciate in that day. I don't go cycling. Love to get back to that at some point, but swimming is a goal I have. And again, when we've done that in the past, it's brought really lovely things to our mental health and supported us. Because when we get physical and we're moving, movement really helps our bodies and it helps, like I said, circulation and blood flow, and really is important and helps build muscle. And it actually makes us feel good about ourselves too, doesn't it? Walking is brilliant too. And then my daughter and I recently have been doing facials on ourselves. Now, I know men might not feel like that's something they want to do, but perhaps they've grown a beard recently. And perhaps making a beard oil is a really good thing, or using something nice that can moisturize, giving themselves a moment or two is a really nice thing for them to do too. So it's thinking outside the box as well. It's going, if I can't do something in my circumstance, is there something I can change up or think outside the box and do something slightly different. So in my current situation, I can't get out an awful lot. But what I can do is I can do things here, or I can chat with friends on the phone. And little things like that just really help to help me feel like I'm not on my own and I'm okay. And I'll be okay as well. And then sleep. So sleep's been huge for me. With stress, my sleep goes. So for me, it's been really important, and that's been a focus of mine recently. And I'll share in a moment what's been helping with that. But again, having phone free time is also helpful too. So putting my phone away is one of my huge things that I keep, doing intentionally. So if you don't get a message from me for a little bit, that's probably why. But it's really important to find those balances. And one of the other things with sleep is noticing that if our body needs to get out in the first few hours of the morning to get that circadian rhythm going and get us feeling better, get the light into our eyes. We recently did a Zoom recently, and it was literally getting that light into the back of our eyes can help us to have healthier sleep later in the day. And that was really cool. Lots of studies on that one. So let's get started and focus on Frank, shall we? Frankincense is beautiful. So if you do have frankincense, grab your bottle and have a little smell and see what you think it smells like. So for me, it's got like a woody smell. Pop it in the chat if you've done it, if you've got yours and you're smelling. But to me, it's got like a citrusy kind of flavor or smell to it. Now, there are like, I don't know about you, but in my lifetime, coming from Ireland, Frank, there's a lot of Franks out there, isn't there? Men called Frank. I've even got a nephew called Frank. Um, but again, like all the Franks that we might know, they are not all the same, are they? They're different people. Same with frankincense as an essential oil. Not all frankincense are the same. So there could be frankincenses out there, and they've got to be careful not to use it internally, for example. And that may mean that it's of a lower quality purity, or perhaps it might mean that it's got synthetic essential oils, man-made, lab-made essential oils, or it might mean that it's had other things added to it. So in that case, those companies may not feel comfortable with people using it a certain way. So the one that I'm talking about in these later on, when it comes to internal use, for example, bear in mind I'm just speaking about the doTERRA brand, but the topically and diffusing with other brands, check those out for yourself. But here, one of the benefits for frankincense is it supports cells. So it helps cells stay healthy and renew and protect our cells and keep them healthy. And we need these cells to stay healthy because they help with our energy, they help with waste and lymphatic drainage, they help with tissue support and also regeneration, they help with nutrient support, helping them go where they need to go. And they also are great for keeping certain levels in our bodies healthy. So that could be perhaps glucose, or it could be to do with other levels that we need to keep going. So just really important to have a look. So here I've got scan QR codes. If you want them separately, absolutely message me. But if you can scan them, the top one is some benefits to frankincense. And then the second one is some really lovely feel good diffuser recipes, which I've actually used a few of them. They are beautiful. One of my favorites is a simple one though, and it is frank and lavender. So they're beautiful together. And doTERRA's actually got supplements, and we take those that have frankincense essential in them as well, because they help with the brain. Now, here's a few ideas that I thought I would compile to show how we can use essential oils in our daily routine, particularly focusing on frankincense in this moment, but I am introducing little friends of frankincense in just to show you how we can implement them. Now, it's not to say that that you should use all of these in one day. Pick and choose what you need in the moment that you need it for, but that's what we do here to support our health. So in the mornings, I actually didn't do it today on purpose because I wanted to show you how easy it is here. But in the mornings, we could put a drop of this frankincense, so doTERRA's one, or one that is safe to take internally. Each brand is different, so they'll tell you. But I do this where I put my finger over the outside so it doesn't drop. And then there's going to be some frankincense here, and I'll put it to the roof of my mouth. It is that citrusy odd tree flavor, but it's not offensive at all. And I put it underneath my tongue and I leave it there for a few seconds and then I just move on with my day. And that's really quite easy. But again, another technique is putting one drop in your hands, warming it up, cupping your hands over your nose and mouth. And you can do this with any essential oils. And inhale deeply through the nose and breathe out through the mouth. And again, taking a few breaths like that can help. It actually helps to ground. There are specific chemical compounds that are inside frankincense that do certain things to your brain. They help with certain things. So they can change a mood, they can change the balances that are going on with mood and hormones, perhaps. They can just support and help your body naturally find its rhythm. So for immune support, things like that, really important that we can use it to help our immune system, because if we feel healthy, then our brains will also help us as well. It'll all match up and help. So here we've got things like there's protective blend, it's called. It's like it's on guard, but it's got orange and clove and cinnamon and things like that, eucalyptus and rosemary in there. That's really useful. But again, if you don't feel comfortable taking it internally, you don't have to do that. Well, I mean, you could, if you wanted, put it in a capsule and take it like that way, but you could also just use it topically on your feet, for example. So reflexology, if anyone's familiar with that, reflex points, we can put it onto the brain reflex point, which is the large toe, big toe, We can literally just put some with carrier oil there, let the carrier oil then take the essential oil and carry it to where it needs to go in the body. You can also put it on your spine or ask somebody to help you. But I actually put it on the upper part of my spine, and that's really good because that's where all the nerves are. So you can put it on your lower part of your spine too. And you can also put it on your chest here with carrier oil, and that's really supportive as well. And then diffusing it. So I love it with lavender, but we could put it with peppermint and frankincense. That helps with focus, gives us that boost, that energy. Personally, I've started just having the diffuser on for about a half an hour, 45 minutes, and then switching it off because you get the most benefits out of it during that time. Your nose won't go blind, which is an expression. To go nose blind is when your nose just starts to not notice the smell. So you can switch it off and then you can still turn that on later on or tomorrow if you wanted to, because you haven't left it going the whole time. So the oils can be reused the next day if you wanted. And another brilliant thing, though I wouldn't do it with frankincense, but you could use a refreshing oil like an orange or peppermint, or my favorite is eucalyptus, and just drop a drop on the bottom of your shower basin or your bath if you've got a shower in the bath, and just allow the steam to hit off that, and the aroma will come up, and it's just a beautiful start to the morning. These are just ideas and things that I do myself as well. So to calm our mood, if we do feel comfortable taking frankincense internally, then we could, and maybe we don't like the taste, for example, then we could get a spoonful of honey and add it to that. This helps our brain. It helps release that fog that we might feel, and it just helps us to feel a bit more like we're functioning better. And this is something that I work with. This is something that my hubby works with, and it's really helpful that way. But if, again, like I said, there are ways that you can do things. So if you feel comfortable doing it one way, go for it. If you feel comfortable taking it internally, go for it. Each way that we apply our essential oils helps our body in a different way. So if we're expecting something from an oil, but we've not applied it in the way that it would help quickly, then we might feel disappointment and feel like it's not working. So it's definitely good to look into and do our research and find what we're comfortable with and see how the uses can support us. And again, like I showed, under the tongue is what I do, but we can also just put it on our wrist. Now, I've got fractionated coconut, so I've got it. I can literally just squirt it into my hand, pop a drop, and my recommendation is have your bottle open first because it's really awkward when you've got carrier oil in your hand and then you need to open the bottle. So I always have my bottle open and I just pop a drop and off I go. This really does help mood, and it's beautiful to have. I also have diffuser bracelet. Now my diffuser bracelet is about a year and a half years old, I think it is. So it smells amazing without using essential oils in it. But what it is it's got little gaps in little holes in the beads. And so you can just drop one drop of an essential oil in the diffuser beads and the aroma will come off because your wrists are warm. So it's going to warm up the aroma and it's going to lift off. And if you're on a train or on a bus, you're traveling, you get road rage, any of these things, a kid drives you nuts, anyone can drive you nuts, right? Have a quick sniff and move on. There's something amazing about that moment where the smell just helps us somewhere. We've probably all been there where we've had a memory and it's been a smell. So again, this can help. And then evening. So evening has been a huge game changer for me. I have gone from having insomnia a few times a month, actually a few times a week, sorry, to now having it only a few times a month. And so for me, that's huge because my sleep's really important. I am so grumpy. I feel like I'm useless without it, and it definitely affects my mood. Definitely, 100% affects my mood. I can be extremely slumpy, slow, and not very nice, really, to be around. And I think that can come from stressors as well. So finding ways to help us practically. My favorite is frankincense and lavender, 2 to 3 drops of each in a diffuser at night time, about a half an hour before I go to bed. It's just so, so calming. But if we're having a struggle during the day, that's also a nice combination to just support us as well, if we're looking for calm. Now, I popped my favorite things bottom left because these are things that have helped me and have helped Dan as well. And it's the Serenity. So Serenity has got lavender, cedarwood, oils like that that are really, really calming and help with our nervous system. So when our nervous system is in that fight or flight, or perhaps it's avoiding things, then this is something that can be really supportive and help to calm things down in the body as well. And again, we just apply it to the feet, or we apply it to the chest or behind our neck. Somewhere where we can smell, sometimes we put it on the wrist, and it's just a very quick application. The immune boost, again, at nighttime, our bodies are going to be working during the night while we're asleep. So if we allow it to work at night, brilliant, brilliant way to just help it heal and work. And it's quite soothing too. So it's quite calming when we give ourselves a moment to ourselves in the evening. So for me, I have made myself out of old bottles of frankincense and lavender. I was able to get these little applicate these little adaptions. They're roller bottle adaptions that literally just recycle the bottle for me. And I love that. And I just make up my own little blend and I roll it on. So at night time, I have frankincense and lavender. And usually I just use lavender, but sometimes I'll use frankincense. And I'll just put it all over my face, or I'll roll it on my hand and then just rub it and dab around my face. And it's just so lovely. But it helps with the calming aspect as well. So we can smell it off our face and if we're laying down and we're resting, it's just a really lovely smell, but it's also giving ourselves a moment. And this is for men and women and children. So it's really useful for all of us. And it just helps to lighten the mood, especially if it feels quite heavy. So frankincense is the one that I would go to very quickly. And the reason I would go to it very quickly is looking into the emotions. So I've got a book here and it explains about how our emotions may be feeling and why we would go for frankincense. And the negative emotions we might be feeling could be feeling abandoned, feeling disconnected. Perhaps that's physically, mentally, spiritually. Perhaps we are distant from a parent. Perhaps we feel unprotected, or not quite in the right way that we would normally like to feel. And what frankincense can do is it can work with your emotions and release the emotions, the negative emotions, and then support us to start feeling the opposite. So to start feeling enlightened, protected, supported, um, connected to whoever we need to feel connected with. And we can use it aromatically. So smelling it, inhaling it just from the bottle if we wanted to. Just smell it from the bottle, smell it from our hands, diffuse it. Like I mentioned, you could even pop a drop on your clothes if you wanted to, if you're uncomfortable having it on your skin, and put it on your feet. Then you could use it topically and you could put it on the crown of your head, you could put forehead, you could put it temples, behind the ears. And then it mentions here using it in the environment, so to support with environmental stress. So there's a lot of toxins, there's a lot of things going on in the home. So perhaps we would need to have something like frankincense to try and balance that out. And then internally, again, like I mentioned, 1 to 2 drops you could have under the tongue or in a capsule, or you could put it into water. So it's really up to you on that one as well. And then we're nearly done. So optional, if you really want to indulge and just feel supported, like I said earlier, then add some drops of frankincense and lavender with some carrier oil. Personally, I use fractionated coconut, but there's jojoba and sweet almond and oils like that that may be beautiful for our skin and dilute the essential oil. Make sure that you dilute the essential oil with the carrier oil first, and then you can add Epsom salts to that, and that will work really well. And the reason for the dilution is because oil doesn't mix with water, as we know from probably our kids or chemistry, and the oil will literally um, stay on the top of the water if it's not dispersed throughout the water and with the help of the carrier oil or the Epsom salts. Um, and so when our legs and our bodies are going into the water, we want to make sure it's diluted if it is lingering on top. It just helps with skin sensitivity. And if we're feeling really low mentally, that's something we don't want to add to any extras with skin sensitivity, do we? Because that irritates us, and then physically we can be irritated or mentally feeling irritated as well. And one of my favorite tips is the shower tip, as I mentioned, popping it on the um, shower at the bottom. So again, that really relaxes me. But personally, I wouldn't use frankincense as it's one of the more expensive oils. I would use it more for myself. So using it on my skin or using it for myself internally. But two of my favorite tips would be make roller bottles up and carry them. Have them in your handbag, have them in your room, bedroom, by the side of the bed, have them available so that you can use them. And then consistency. So keeping it in the bloodstream is really, really helpful. And it will then keep things a bit calmer. Perhaps it will help us to feel more like we are managing better, which it does in our case. Um, and it just seems to balance things a bit better for us as to, the difference if we weren't doing this. Neither of us are on medications for this feeling because we are managing it ourselves personally. So I just feel like that's a really useful thing. But again, very important if we are struggling and these things, these natural solutions are not supporting us, definitely speak to medical professionals about it. And there are some wonderful resources that are out there. But before I go on to those thoughts I have, and one is that I personally, this might resonate, I need to fill my cup so that I can fill someone else's cup. We physically, if we've got a cup that's empty, we cannot pour anything else into anybody's cup because we've nothing to give. And this is something that is time and time tested and is proven to be true. But if we're able to find ways to lift ourselves and support ourselves, we will then start to feel like that person we want to feel like in supporting other people if that's what we want to do. And being there for our families is something that I found really useful. Is when I fill my cup, I'm able to have more energy and have more thought and more mental ability to support my family and to be there for them. So it's really important I give myself that moment. And my daughter has recently given us a challenge of reading War of the Worlds. And this is a quote I actually discovered myself while reading. You must keep your head. There is still hope. And I thought that was a beautiful thing. So that we never need to feel like we can't continue with things. There is definitely hope. And with that in mind, felt I had to share these just in case. So for the UK, there is Mind, which is amazing for resources. I have used them myself locally. There is the NHS mental health services as well. And on doTERRA have got a blog specifically on helping to reduce sad feelings with essential oils. And it's beautiful. And there's so many resources there. If you do want to reach out about them, please do talk to me. I have the resources available because I have them for myself. So I'm happy to share whatever I found. And you can do your own research, obviously, as well. So in Ireland, we have Aware. Now, there are loads, by the way, I realized that, but I picked the top three for me. So Aware, there is HSE, and there is the Pieta House. So just have those available, scan them, or go look for them yourself, and take care of yourselves and mind yourselves. So that is it. So I'm going to stop recording and open up to any questions about anything that I've mentioned today. I hope that you found some of these useful and practical, I hope it wasn't too overwhelming either, but hopefully some of those suggestions resonate.